Once, my close friend tried to tempt my future husband and wreck our wedding by saying he made her pregnant, so I had her spouse hand her divorce papers in front of everyone. My bestie Samantha, who's 25 and I 24, have been super close for nearly 8 years. We hit it off right away and have stuck together like glue ever since. Though we had some small arguments in the beginning, nothing major. But in the last 4 or 5 years we've had a couple of bigger fights, and the latest one is the worst. Usually Samantha is amazing, always there for me, really kind, and a great listener. We both don't hold grudges, and unlike me, who tends to get annoyed with people quickly, I've never felt that way about her in our whole friendship. But there's always been this one issue. When she drinks, she gets super flirty with any guy nearby, which really creeps me out because she's in a serious relationship. Some of our mutual friends have even made comments like, "Isn't she married?" Or, "Does her husband know she acts like that?" It's making her look kind of silly, and it's not cool. About 4 or 5 years ago, she met her husband, Kyle. Their relationship had a rough start, but they managed to buy a house, get engaged, and tie the knot a couple of summers ago. Things changed when my best friend cheated on her partner, not just once, but twice, with 2 of my closest guy friends, guys I'm always hanging out with. And she did it while she was away from him at my place. Sneaky, right? All this happened while I was sleeping in the same house, both times in the same summer. The first time, she confessed about it, but the second time, she tried to keep it secret. I had this feeling that something wasn't right because she was acting so strange about it, so I went straight to the guy involved, and he spilled the beans. He even showed me texts where she was practically begging him to keep things quiet. When I confronted her, she tried to play it off like he took advantage of her. But come on, 2 of my closest guy friends, both times when she was at my place and all behind my back, that was hard to accept. I had a strong feeling that something had happened, so I approached the guy, and he confessed, showing me texts where she was practically begging him to keep things quiet. When I confronted her, she tried to blame him, but we had screenshots of her messages, clearly showing it was consensual. I was really upset because she falsely accused one of my close friends. I told her she put me in an awkward position, and I wasn't happy about it. These are the 2 friends I spend a lot of time with, and she made it uncomfortable for us to hang out since she cheated on her fiancé with one of them. I made it clear to her that it was wrong to accuse him when we had evidence of her intentions. She kind of brushed it off and barely acknowledged her wrongdoing on multiple levels. Then she acted as if nothing had happened, taking no responsibility. I stopped inviting her to hang out with most of my male friends. It became complicated when she asked me to be the maid of honor at her wedding, and her infidelity was weighing on my conscience. I felt sorry for her fiancé but also didn't want to betray her. I guess I wasn't thinking clearly. She never brought up the cheating again and seemed to disconnect from the fact that it occurred. For some reason, she began trusting everyone who knew about the cheating to keep it from her partner, and even invited my 2 male friends to hang out with her and her husband. I know it doesn't sound great, but at that point, I was going to be her maid of honor. I was trying to see the best in her and hoping it was all in the past. I genuinely wanted her to be happy, so I went along with her narrative that nothing had happened and tried to move forward for the sake of our friendship and her wedding. I just hoped no one else would reveal the truth. When we used to go out, she would still seek attention from guys when she drank, but it was mostly harmless, like flirting or dancing as far as I could see. The most she did was try to persuade one of my guy friends, the same one she hooked up with, to spend the night with her again. I shut that down immediately, and nothing happened after that. It was kind of annoying though, because I ended up having to keep an eye on her when she was drunk just to ensure she wouldn't actually cheat on her husband. It felt like I was babysitting my BFF to prevent her from making any mistakes again. Jumping ahead to about 4 months ago, we went out for dinner and drinks. We got pretty drunk and headed back to my place where I lived with my boyfriend, Van, of 2 years. At one point, he was upstairs working out with the door closed, and I left my best friend sleeping in the guest room while I went down to the basement to watch some TV and do my laundry. The next day, my boyfriend called me after my best friend left and said she did something really strange that made him uncomfortable while I was downstairs on the phone. I asked him, already feeling tense about what she had done this time. Apparently, while Van was working out in his boxers, Samantha just barged in without being invited and started talking to him about his workouts. At first, he thought she might be looking for me, so he told her that I was in the basement, but she brushed it off. She had lost some weight recently and began asking him, "Do you think I look good?" She even lifted her shirt to show her abs. Then, according to him, she got on the floor to do some butt workout moves, saying, "My ass looks so much better since I've been working out," and kept trying to get him to say that she looks good. He found it really strange and didn't want to give her the validation she seemed to be seeking. He thought she was fishing hard for compliments, so he suggested she go downstairs and find me. When he told me about it, I was furious with her. I knew she could act this way when she was drunk, but I never imagined she would do something like this with my boyfriend. First off, when you see someone in their boxers, wouldn't common sense tell you to leave the room immediately? And secondly, why would you even care about what your best friend's boyfriend thinks about your appearance or your butt? It just didn't make any sense. I decided to confront her the next day by inviting her to my place. When my boyfriend was away, I began to tell her about what he had shared with me. She immediately started apologizing, saying she had no idea why she acted like that when she was drunk and all that. I told her that I needed space, and that I didn't know how I could ever trust her again. The next day, she completely changed her story. She began saying that my boyfriend was lying and exaggerating, and she thought I would have seen the conversation as harmless. But seriously, in what world is telling your best friend's boyfriend how nice your butt looks considered harmless? My boyfriend has always been an amazing partner, and he was scared to tell me about what happened because he knew it would hurt me to see her act like that toward him. He had no reason to lie. He's never betrayed my trust. On the other hand, she has a history of this behavior, so my gut told me to believe my boyfriend. I was really upset that she changed her story and wouldn't take any responsibility, especially since this wasn't the first time she had acted like this when she was drunk. I even reminded her of times she had done similar things with other guys who were taken or married, pointing out her pattern of behavior. Instead of owning up to it, she kept playing the victim, saying I was being rude for bringing up her past mistakes. She claimed she didn't know where to go from there because she feels uncomfortable around my boyfriend now. This infuriated me because she was trying to shift the blame onto him, even though she was the one who made him feel uncomfortable and put him in a weird position. At that point, my feelings were all over the place, but one thing was clear. I didn't want to continue the friendship unless she acknowledged her problem, sought help, and tried to understand why she acted that way when she was drunk. I shared with her that I was fed up with constantly feeling like I had to parent her, especially to prevent her from cheating. It had become exhausting, and I expressed my frustration at her tendency to blame everyone but herself for the issues we were facing. I informed her that this recurring pattern had strained our friendship. The conversation turned into a heated exchange as I confronted her about her actions. I emphasized that I couldn't tolerate the lack of accountability and needed her to acknowledge the impact of her behavior on our friendship. She then began to blame me, asserting that I was a bad friend for not believing her side of the story. It quickly escalated into a tense exchange where she accused me of not being supportive and understanding. In the midst of this blame shifting, the tension reached a boiling point. Frustrated and hurt, she abruptly stormed off, stating that she never wanted to speak to me ever again. It was a difficult moment since she had been my best friend for the last 8 years, but her behavior was now starting to affect my boyfriend, which I couldn't just let her get away with. I accepted her decision and didn't bother contacting her after that. On a Saturday night while I was out with my friends at 2 a.m., her husband texted me, calling my boyfriend a scumbag for exaggerating. He implied that I was insecure because his wife had been working out, suggesting that I was jealous of her new body. He accused me and my boyfriend of making a big deal out of nothing and told me that I had been a bad friend to her. Just to set the record straight, I was extremely confident and had always been secure with myself. I texted him back, saying maybe one day she will be honest with you and tell you what you don't know. He replied back immediately, asking what I meant by that. I decided to ignore his message as it wasn't my business anymore. The next day, unexpectedly, the doorbell rang, and to my and my boyfriend's surprise, we found my best friend's husband, Kyle, standing there. His presence was unexpected, but we welcomed him inside regardless, with a palpable tension in the room. Kyle had come to talk to me about the text I had sent him the previous night. He asked me to tell him the truth about why I had sent him that text and if it had any truth to it. I nodded slowly and Kyle pressed me to reveal more. I was a bit nervous about telling him the truth. Feeling a bit uncomfortable divulging all the past indiscretions of my best friend, I hesitated to share everything with him. At that moment, my boyfriend stepped in and began to explain to him what had transpired between him and Samantha. He recounted how uncomfortable he felt when she entered the room without his permission while he was wearing only his boxers and working out alone. She persisted in trying to show him her abs, making him extremely uneasy. Kyle looked shocked upon hearing this and admitted that he had heard a completely different version of the incident from her. He had no idea that my boyfriend was in his boxers when she barged in, and he seemed embarrassed as he fumbled an apology. Suddenly, I felt sorry for him. Here he was, trying to apologize to us for his wife's behavior when he had no idea about her much worse actions with other men. Taking a deep breath, I decided to reveal the entire truth to him. I disclosed Samantha's past indiscretions, detailing the occasions when she had cheated on him with other men that I was friends with. Kyle looked stunned and asked me if I was sure that Samantha had gone so far as to sleep with them. I nodded and showed him the screenshots that I had kept, proving her infidelities while married to him. Kyle, still in shock, asked me why I hadn't told him about these incidents before. It was a valid question, and I began to apologize to him for keeping these things a secret. I explained that I didn't want to betray her trust since she had been my best friend for all these years. I told him how every time we went drinking, I felt like I had to watch over her to prevent her from sleeping with someone else. The revelation hit him hard, and the weight of the truth became apparent in his eyes. He expressed gratitude for my honesty, but made it clear that there was no way he could continue living with her after learning about these betrayals. I understood his perspective. He told me that he had a lot to think about and asked me not to tell my best friend anything about his visit. I nodded in agreement, and he thanked me for being upfront before leaving. It was a surreal and intense moment, realizing that my best friend's actions had led to the end of her marriage. In the aftermath of that tumultuous period, I never talked to Samantha or Kyle at all. From what I could gather, they appeared to still be together, indicating that their marriage hadn't crumbled despite the revelations. Personally, I decided to channel my energy and attention towards my own life and career, consciously distancing myself from the complexities that had defined that chapter. Fast forward to just 2 months ago, a delightful twist unfolded in my life. My boyfriend decided to take our relationship to the next level. In a heartwarming and unexpected turn of events, he proposed to me, marking the beginning of a new and hopefully more serene chapter in our journey together. It was the happiest day of my life, and I posted our engagement pictures with my new ring to my social media. My friends started congratulating me, and I guess some of our mutual friends might have informed Samantha as well. She called me multiple times in the middle of the night, and when I picked up, thinking she might have called to congratulate me, she instead started yelling at me. She insisted that I couldn't marry my fiancé and that I needed to break up with him because I couldn't have a happy ending after choosing him over her. My fiancé, who was sleeping next to me, woke up groggy, asking me what happened. I put her on speaker so he could hear how irrational she sounded. She continued to rant, insulting my fiancé and threatening to destroy his life for what he did to our friendship. Fed up with Samantha's angry tirade, I had enough. I told her she was going too far and hung up, feeling irritated and unwilling to put up with more of her drama. The next morning, I woke up to a bunch of angry messages from Samantha, all about how she would ruin our wedding. Feeling a bit uneasy, I decided to call Kyle. He shared that she had been acting super agitated since the previous night, but he had no clue why. I spilled the beans about my engagement and filled him in on what Samantha had yelled at me over the phone. I even sent him screenshots of her furious messages. After checking them out, Kyle finally said, "This is why she's been so worked up since last night." Perplexed, I asked him what he meant. He explained how she spent the night drinking by herself, mumbling about having to do something, but he had no idea until now that it was connected to our conversation. Worried about her threats, I told him I couldn't take them lightly considering her history, and there was a good chance she might show up at my wedding to cause trouble. This is when Kyle revealed that for the past few months, he had been secretly meeting with his lawyer and moving his assets or signing them off to his parents. He wanted to divorce Samantha, but before that, He needed to be ready since she would definitely play dirty to get her hands on his money. Even though there was a chance that she might never win any alimony, she had cheated on him, and he had proof. He still didn't want to take any chances. This is why these last 4 months, he had been rearranging his assets, waiting for the right opportunity to officially divorce her. He told me that if Samantha wanted to show up at my wedding and make a scene, then he wanted to teach her a lesson by handing in the divorce papers to her. I was a bit uncomfortable at first with this, but my boyfriend, who had been overhearing our conversation, readily agreed with Kyle. The plan would only be set in motion if Samantha showed up to our wedding to create a ruckus. Last week, we finally had our small wedding at the church. It was a cozy gathering with close friends and family, and we felt really happy exchanging our vows during the ceremony. I kept a lookout, kind of expecting Samantha to appear and cause trouble as she threatened. The worry was still there, but Kyle was ready. He had the divorce papers just in case she decided to show up and create a scene. As the priest asked if anyone had objections to our union, a voice cut through the moment, revealing that she indeed had a problem. We looked back in shock, and to my amazement, it was Samantha. She was standing in the middle of the aisle, clearly not willing to let our wedding proceed smoothly. The joy and excitement quickly turned into tense and awkward silence as all eyes turned to her. Samantha started accusing Van right there in front of everyone, claiming that he was the father of the child she was carrying. We looked at her in disbelief, unable to fathom how absurd her lies were. She continued to yell that she was pregnant with his child and couldn't allow him to marry me. Every one of the guests, including our parents, looked at us in shock. The atmosphere shifted from pure joy to complete chaos in seconds. My dad looked at me questioningly, seeking confirmation from me. I closed my eyes in frustration, knowing what was about to happen next. Samantha looked at me and smirked, knowing that she had successfully embarrassed us. Before Samantha could say another word, Kyle got up from his seat, leaving her stunned. Perhaps she didn't expect to see him among the guests. He approached Samantha with a calm yet stern expression on his face, clutching a small envelope in his hand. The tension in the room was palpable, and everyone watched as Kyle handed her the envelope. Samantha looked bewildered, not fully comprehending what was happening. With precision, Kyle declared, "Samantha, you are the biggest liar and cheater I have known in my life, and you have left me with no choice. Now, I think it's time you know that I have been preparing to divorce you these last few months for the multiple affairs that you have had. Here are the divorce papers." The room fell silent as Samantha opened the envelope, revealing the divorce papers. The realization hit her like a ton of bricks. Her plan to disrupt the wedding had backfired spectacularly. Kyle, maintaining his composure, started to explain to everyone present that he couldn't tolerate her lies and manipulations any longer. He announced to everyone that Samantha had been unfaithful in their marriage and had a tendency to lie. Because she held a grudge against me and Van, she had decided to show up and interrupt our wedding. My husband and I exchanged glances, relieved that Kyle had been there to reveal the truth. Samantha, now facing the consequences of her actions, seemed stunned. The guests, initially shocked by her accusation, whispered among themselves. Van took this chance to ask everyone to remain seated, and then requested Kyle to escort Samantha out. Kyle nodded and took her out while the ceremony proceeded as planned. As you can guess, even though our wedding went well, all our guests could talk about was Samantha. Some had even recorded videos of the incident, and I've seen some of them on various friends' chat groups. I feel a bit sorry for Samantha, but I guess she got what she deserved. Everyone is as shocked as I am that Samantha could stoop so low by accusing my husband of being the father of her child. Since the incident, she has tried to call me multiple times unsuccessfully. From the messages she has sent me, I can see that she blames me for her divorce and for not warning her about it. I want to thank everyone for their advice. You all really opened my eyes to some things about my best friend that my brain had tried to avoid for the sake of our friendship. But I realize now that she was never truly a friend to me. She was indeed extremely toxic and manipulative. My husband and I are currently on our honeymoon, so I don't want to spend a lot of time dealing with Samantha's drama. I have also decided to cut ties with her completely this time, despite her attempts to shift the blame onto me. I understand that her actions and lies were the cause of her failed marriage. My parents, who had known Samantha for a long time, since she was my best friend of 8 years, are also very disappointed with her. They had no idea that she would go to such lengths to try to interrupt my wedding. She had clearly tried to embarrass me and my boyfriend, but in the process, she got embarrassed when her husband handed her their divorce papers and revealed her lies. Since this incident, I have learned a valuable lesson about toxic friendships and the importance of surrounding myself with people who genuinely care for my well-being. My focus now is on building a happy and healthy life with my husband. The support from friends and family during the wedding incident has been reassuring, and I am grateful for the love and understanding they've shown. Update 2. It's been 2 months since my last update. Van and I have remained in touch with Kyle, and he continues to be a dear friend to us. Kyle is in the process of getting his divorce from Samantha, and as expected, she is fighting tooth and nail to get alimony from him. At first, she had tried her best to convince Kyle that I had made things up about her having affairs, but eventually confessed the truth when he told her that he had screenshots as proof. She had then tried to beg him to forgive her, but Kyle was determined to stand his ground. As for Samantha's attempts to reach out to me, she had initially alternated between pleading for forgiveness and hurling accusations at me, claiming that I ruined her life. I chose to maintain my distance and then blocked her on all forms of communication. It was crucial for my mental well-being to prioritize my own happiness and not let her negativity seep into my life. She then started messaging Van, who immediately let her know in no uncertain terms that he had enough of her crazy behavior and would take the legal route to get a restraining order from her if she continued. Since then, she hasn't tried to contact us. Some of our mutual friends have also stopped talking to Samantha since finding out about her antics and various affairs. It's clear now that Samantha can't hide herself behind blaming others, and I hope this time she learns a valuable lesson of owning her mistakes for once in her life. Update 3. It's been 7 months since my last update. The only reason I am back on Reddit is because I wanted to share with everyone my happy news. I am pregnant with Van. I know all my previous updates have been filled with drama, but this time it's nothing but pure joy and happiness. Van and I are over the moon about expecting our first child, and it's a wonderful new chapter in our lives. As for Samantha, she's become a distant memory. We continue to invite Kyle to visit us, and he is officially a divorced man. Fortunately for him, Samantha couldn't get any alimony due to her multiple affairs, and he is finally free to do whatever he wants. To those who offered advice and support throughout this roller coaster, thank you. Life is now filled with the excitement of starting a family, and we couldn't be more grateful for the love and positivity around us. Wishing everyone the best in their own journeys.